this with something else. So I want to talk about why it's actually important to eat animal foods for a good night's sleep. And to give you my backstory, I was actually vegetarian for about 7 years in my 20s. I went to nutrition school and really, was fed, I guess, the benefits of a vegetarian diet. And while I do think it has its place, I've since learned that, first of all, not everyone should be eating a vegetarian diet, and that we easily miss out on a lot of different nutrients by doing that. So luckily in my 20s, I also started working on an organic biodynamic farm called Cosmic Apple in Victor, Idaho, which is right over the pass from Jackson, Wyoming. And it took me a few years to finally kind of change my views about things. But I saw firsthand how the animals there actually make the farm healthy and even give the farm its fertility. So with biodynamics, you do a lot of different things with compost, and it's all about the health of the soil. And so the cow's manure was turned into compost, and we put preps on it and things like that to make it really healthy and nutritious. And this farm also rotated their pastures for the cows. They rotated where their chickens are, where the pigs are. And those animals actually help break up the soil and get rid of some of the weeds and aerate the soil and really help get it ready for planting the next year. So I just saw how animals were such a big part of a healthy farm. And so it totally changed my view about eating meat. And, the reason I became vegetarian was because I read these books about the horror of how animals are treated. And that is absolutely true on, conventionally produced meat. So things like CAFOs, where cows are, being kept in very large number in a very small area. It's easy for them to get sick. So they're given a lot of antibiotics. They're giving growth hormones. Chickens and pigs are treated similarly, just not given the space they need to live a healthy life. And so that really disgusted me and was what led me to become a vegetarian. But again, by working on this different kind of farm, a sustainable farm, seeing the animals are not treated like that. They're treated very well. They have this purpose for their life. They're given nutritious food. They're giving us nutrients in exchange. And so it just gave me a completely different view about eating animals. And so now I definitely eat meat. I do try to eat it from sustainable farms as much as possible. And I understand the trend of a plant-based diet right now. I do think it can have some benefits, especially for people who have been eating the standard American diet for a long time. Switching to a vegan diet, let's say, is hopefully, as long as they aren't eating a bunch of junk processed foods, it is hopefully going to improve their nutrition if they start focusing on whole foods and things like fresh vegetables and fruit. But a vegan diet is not meant to be on for a long time, at least from a health standpoint. So let's get into why these animal foods can actually help us sleep better. And it's because a lot of fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, are found in animal foods. And these vitamins, especially A and D, are what help make a lot of our hormones and neurotransmitters that do help us sleep. So, for example, there's also something called AA, or arachidonic acid, and it's an omega-6 fatty acid, and it's found in animal fats, liver, and egg yolks. And our body makes endocannabinoids out of that arachidonic acid. So endocannabinoids are they're naturally made, feel-good hormones that should be made in our body. And then our body uses those endocannabinoids to make dopamine and cortisol. So some necessary hormones to help us feel good, and to deal with stress. So you've probably heard me talk, if you've been following me, then you know that I talk about cortisol quite a bit. It's true that we don't want cortisol at night when we're trying to sleep, but it is a very necessary hormone that helps us deal with stress. It also helps us deal with inflammation because it's an anti-inflammatory hormone. So it's very important that we have the nutrients we need to make these things. Now, the fat-soluble vitamins A and D, as well as that arachidonic acid, help also regulate dopamine and cortisol. So again, like we want those things regulated so that cortisol is at 0 at night and is highest during the day when it's supposed to be. Now, to make serotonin, that's the hormone that helps us relax and is important for sleep as well. Our body needs vitamin D, it needs tryptophan, iron, and B vitamins. And all of those are best absorbed from animal foods. And then our body then uses serotonin to make melatonin, our sleepy hormone. So it's definitely critical that we have enough serotonin. Now, all of our adrenal hormones are made with cholesterol with the help of vitamin A. So again, we need those adrenal hormones like cortisol to help us deal with stress so that we can then sleep better at night. And egg yolks are one of the best dietary sources of cholesterol. So it's really hard to get all of these nutrients from a plant-based diet, especially if you are doing that, for years on end. And we don't have to eat a lot of meat as we think of it. So Americans and the Western world presently tends to I'm losing the right word. We eat what's called muscle meat, right? We like steaks, we like chicken breast, things like that. Whereas culturally, even just a couple hundred years ago, most cultures use the entire animal from nose to tail, it's called. So they really prized organ meats, especially over muscle meat. And it turns out that there are different nutrients in different parts of the animal, and we need all of those together to help us have a balanced diet and digest that muscle meat well. So I'm not saying that we need to go eat a lot of muscle meat. I think instead we should still focus on organ meats. They provide a lot of minerals for sure, and then animal fats that have those fat soluble vitamins, and eggs, and full fat dairy. So those foods just have the things that we need to make the hormones and neurotransmitters that are going to help us sleep. As always, please let me know if you have any questions. And if you aren't sleeping, I'm happy to chat at any point. We can talk about why you aren't sleeping and what you can do to fix it so that you can truly live your life to the fullest. So wishing you a good night's sleep and staying healthy and safe this week. And I'll talk to you soon.